Ladies and gentlemen, imagine reaching a point in life where your strength is not enough, your wisdom is exhausted, and your plans keep failing. It is in that very moment you realize what you need is not more effort, but divine intervention. And with one prayer, Lord, step into my life and do what only you can do. Everything can change. There comes a moment in every human journey when the weight of life feels heavier than our ability to carry it. A moment when your education, your experience, your connections, and even your courage are not enough. It is in such moments that you lift your eyes and cry, Lord, step into my life and do what only you can do. This is not a cry of defeat. It is a declaration of wisdom. For the wisest man is not the one who has all the answers, but the one who knows the source of all answers. Surrender is one of the most misunderstood concepts in human life. To the natural mind, surrender appears as weakness, as giving up, or as abandoning the fight. But in the spiritual dimension, surrender is the highest form of wisdom. It is not about throwing your hands in defeat, but about lifting your hands in recognition that there is a higher power, a greater authority, and a more capable hand than your own. It is the realization that your knowledge is limited, your resources are finite, and your control is fragile. To acknowledge the simple yet profound truth, you are not God, and life was never meant to be carried on your shoulders alone. Think about the design of creation. The bird does not stress about flying. It simply spreads its wings and the wind does the rest. The tree does not struggle to produce fruit. It simply stays rooted. And the nourishment of the soil brings forth the harvest. In the same way, human beings were never designed to live independent of the one who created them. To surrender is to return to that original order. It is not losing your freedom. It is discovering the freedom that comes when you are aligned with the one who knows the path ahead. Many of us live life as if we are self-sufficient, as if our intellect and art alone can produce success. And yes, there are things you can achieve by discipline and determination. But there comes a point where human effort reaches its ceiling. There are circumstances you cannot fix, doors you cannot open, and burdens you cannot carry. It is in these moments that surrender becomes your greatest weapon. To surrender is to say, Lord, I recognize my limits, but I also recognize your limitless power. I hand this over to you. This act of surrender is not passive, it is active trust. When you surrender, you are not sitting back and doing nothing. You are choosing to walk in obedience, to follow divine guidance, to let go of control and allow the author of life to write the next chapter. Imagine a child in deep water. The child panics, thrashes, and struggles, but only sinks deeper. Yet the moment the child surrenders and allows the light God to take hold, rescue becomes possible. That is the power of surrender. It saves you from drowning in your own efforts. Surrender is also the key to peace. Much of the stress, anxiety, and fear people live with today comes from the illusion of control. We believe we must manage every outcome, solve every problem, and predict every tomorrow. But life is too vast and uncertain for that. Worry is proof that you are trying to carry a burden that does not belong to you. Peace, on the other hand, is the fruit of surrender. The moment you place the unknown into God's hands, you no longer have to carry the pressure of the outcome. You do your part, but you rest in the confidence that the one who holds tomorrow is already working on your behalf. Furthermore, surrender positions you for divine direction. As long as you insist on steering the wheel of your life, you limit the journey to your own vision and understanding. But when you surrender, you open yourself to guidance beyond what you can see. Sometimes what looks like a delay is actually divine protection. What seems like a closed door may be a redirection towards something greater. When you surrender, you stop demanding that life follow your script, and instead you allow the Creator to unfold His script. A script that always has a greater ending than anything you could write for yourself. Surrender also transforms your character. When you let go and allow God to shape your life, you begin to develop patience, humility, and resilience. You stop measuring your worth by control and achievement, and you start measuring it by obedience and trust. The power of surrender is that it doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes you. It takes away arrogance and replaces it with dependence on the one who never fails. In truth, surrender is not about loss, but about gain. It is exchanging your weakness for God's strength, your uncertainty for His wisdom, your limitation for His abundance. The greatest victories in history did not come from those who clung to control, but from those who surrendered their lives to a higher cause. When you surrender, you step into a partnership where your natural effort meets God's supernatural power. And in that union, impossible things become possible. So the call to surrender is not an invitation to quit. It is an invitation to live. It is the wisdom of saying, I cannot, but He can. I do not know, but He does. I am limited, but He is unlimited. This is the power of surrender, discovering that the most powerful decision you can ever make is to step aside and let God step in. The principle of divine intervention teaches us that there are moments in life where human wisdom, skill, and strength are not enough. We live in a world that celebrates independence, self-sufficiency, and control. Society often tells us that success comes only to those who plan carefully, work hard, and push themselves relentlessly. While diligence and discipline are necessary, there is a deeper truth that cannot be ignored. Some battles are not won by effort alone. Some doors will never open by knocking harder. Some burdens will not lift no matter how strong you are. There are seasons where only divine intervention can make the difference. Divine intervention is not about magic or chance. It is about God stepping into the ordinary affairs of men with extraordinary power. It is the moment when heaven intersects with earth, when the natural is interrupted by the supernatural. We see this principle throughout history and throughout the lives of people who dare to invite God into their circumstances. Think of a person who has exhausted every option, consulted every expert, tried every solution, yet nothing changes. Then suddenly, no one can explain, a healing occurs that no doctor predicted, or a door opens that seemed permanently locked. That is not coincidence. It is divine intervention. The reason divine intervention is critical is because not every problem in life is physical or visible. Many struggles are spiritual, rooted in forces beyond human sight or understanding. You cannot fight spiritual battles with physical weapons. You cannot reason your way through barriers that are invisible. When you cry out for divine intervention, your problem is bigger than you, but never bigger than God. You are acknowledging that while your resources may be drained, heaven's resources never run dry. This principle also teaches humility. Human beings are often tempted to think that we are in control of everything, that our intelligence or influence can solve all problems. Yet life has a way of confronting us with situations that strip away our pride. A sudden illness, a broken relationship, a financial crisis, an unexpected loss. These moments remind us that we are not as powerful as we think. Divine intervention invites us to shift from pride to dependence, from self-reliance to God-reliance. It is a call to recognize that true strength lies not in doing everything by ourselves, but in allowing God to do what only He can. When divine intervention happens, it rarely follows human logic. Often, God's solutions look unusual or unexpected. Sometimes He delays what you want in order to give you what you need. Sometimes He closes a door because He knows the path beyond it would destroy you. Other times He allows you to come to the end of yourself so that you will finally look up and discover His power. The principle here is simple. Divine intervention does not always give you what you imagined, but it always provides what is best. Inviting divine intervention is not passive. It requires active faith, persistent prayer, and trust in God's timing. When you pray, Lord, step into my life, you are making room for His wisdom to guide your decisions and His power to influence your circumstances. You are asking not only for solutions, but for alignment with His will. That is why divine intervention is not just about rescue, it is about direction. It may not always remove the challenge immediately, but it will always lead you toward growth, maturity, and fulfillment of your purpose. There is also a powerful dimension of protection in divine intervention. Many of the dangers you did not see, the accidents you avoided, the opportunities preserved for you, these were not by chance. They were moments when God intervened silently on your behalf. You may not always recognize it, but countless times divine intervention has shielded you from harm that could have destroyed you. This is why gratitude is essential. Recognizing divine intervention cultivates a heart of thankfulness, knowing that your life is preserved not merely by your effort, but by divine mercy. Ultimately, the principle of divine intervention is about hope. It reminds you that no matter how dark the night, morning will come. No matter how impossible the situation seems, God can step in and change it in an instant. What takes humans years to build, He can establish in a moment. What seems irreversible to you is not irreversible to Him. Divine intervention teaches that the story of your life is not finished until God says it is finished, and He always has the final word. So when you find yourself facing obstacles that overwhelm you, when you reach the limits of your own strength, do not despair. Instead, look upward and invite the one who never fails. Cry out sincerely, "Lord, step into my life and do what only you can do." And when He does, you will discover that what was impossible yesterday becomes possible today, not by might, not by power, but by His Spirit. Living in alignment with God's purpose is one of the most important principles for a meaningful and fulfilling life. Purpose is not a human invention, it is a divine design. Everything created was made with an intention. The sun was created to give light and heat, the river to provide water and flow, the seed to grow into a tree and bear fruit. In the same way, your life was created with a purpose that existed before you were born. To live without discovering that purpose is to exist, but not truly life. Alignment with God's purpose is the difference between activity and achievement, between being busy and being effective. When you invite God to step into your life, you begin to see that your existence is not an accident. Every gift, every talent, every experience, both joyful and painful, has been shaping you for a reason. Purpose gives context to life. Without it, problems feel meaningless and pain feels cruel. But when you understand purpose, even struggles become teachers and delays become preparation. Alignment means recognizing that your life fits into a larger picture, that you are part of a divine plan greater than your personal ambitions. Living in alignment requires humility, because it means acknowledging that you are not the author of your own life. You did not create yourself, and therefore you cannot fully define yourself. Just as a product's purpose is determined by its manufacturer, your purpose is determined by the one who designed you. Many people spend years chasing goals, achievements, and possessions, only to find themselves unfulfilled. That emptiness is not because they lacked success, but because they lacked alignment. When your achievements are not tied to your God-given purpose, they will never satisfy. Alignment with purpose also brings clarity. Life becomes confusing when you do not know why you are here. You end up comparing yourself with others, imitating their journeys, and measuring your worth by their standards. But when you live by purpose, comparison loses its grip. You no longer need to compete because you realize your assignment is unique. Just as every part of the body has its role, the eye to see, the ear to hear, the hand to work, you too have a role that no one else can fulfill. Alignment frees you from envy and allows you to celebrate others while staying faithful to your own path. Purpose is not just about personal fulfillment, it is about service. When God designed you, He did so with others in mind. Your gifts were given not only your benefit, but for the benefit of the world around you. Living in alignment means asking, how can my life add value? How can my gifts solve problems, heal wounds, inspire hope, or bring light? The measure of true success is not how much you accumulate, but how much you contribute. Purpose transforms life from self-centered living to impact-driven living. Another key dimension of alignment is timing. God's purpose unfolds in seasons. Just as the seed does not bear fruit immediately, your purpose often takes time to mature. Many people become frustrated because they want instant results, forgetting that preparation is part of purpose. The delay is not denial, it is development. When you align yourself with God's timing, you learn patience and trust. You stop rushing ahead and instead allow each stage of life to prepare you for the next. Living in alignment also protects you from unnecessary detours. When you are not aligned, you waste energy chasing opportunities that were never meant for you. You invest in relationships that drain you, commit to tasks that distract you, and carry weights that do not belong to you. Alignment filters your choices. It helps you say no to the good so that you can say yes to the best. It keeps you focused on what matters most. Ultimately, alignment with God's purpose brings peace. There is a deep rest that comes from knowing you are exactly where you are meant to be, doing what you were created to do. Life's challenges will not disappear, but they will no longer shake your foundation because you know your steps are ordered. You may not understand every detail, but you trust the one who sees the end from the beginning. Purpose becomes your anchor in uncertainty and your compass in confusion. To live in alignment with God's purpose is to live with meaning, clarity, and impact. It is to rise each day not just to survive, but to fulfill destiny. It is to walk through life with the assurance that you are not wandering aimlessly, but moving intentionally toward a divine destination. And the greatest fulfillment you will ever experience is not in asking, "What do I want from life?" but in asking, "What was I created for?" When you align yourself with that answer, you will find that life flows with grace, doors open with ease, and even in difficulty, you carry the strength of knowing that your life is part of something eternal. Faith as a catalyst for change is one of the most powerful truths a person can embrace. Faith is not mere optimism, nor is it simply a hopeful wish. It is the confident assurance that what God has promised, He is able and willing to perform. Faith is the bridge between what is unseen and what becomes reality. It is the force that transforms impossible situations into testimonies. Where human logic ends, faith begins, and when faith is activated, it draws the power of God into the circumstances of life. Change, by its very nature, is not easy. People become accustomed to routines, environments, and even struggles. Many live years in the same cycle because fear keeps them bound and doubt convinces them that nothing will ever improve. But faith disrupts that cycle. Faith is not passive, it demands action. It compels you to step beyond comfort zones, to speak words that defy your situation, and to act in expectation of what God will do. Change never begins with circumstances, it begins with belief. The way you see life shapes the way you live it, and faith shifts your vision from limitation to possibility. Faith is also intelligent trust. It is not blind ignorance or denial of reality. Instead, it acknowledges the facts but chooses to believe in a higher truth. The fact may be that you are sick, but faith declares that healing is possible. The fact may be that you are in debt, but faith affirms that provision can come. The fact may be that doors are closed, but faith proclaims that no door can remain closed if God has destined it to open. Faith does not ignore reality. It invites God into reality to transform it. One of the greatest qualities of faith is that it activates divine partnership. God has the power to do anything, but He often waits for your faith to release His intervention. Faith is the key that unlocks heaven's storehouse. It is not that God is unable without it, but rather that He has chosen to respond to faith. This is why faith is described as the evidence of things not seen. It is the proof that you trust Him even before you see the outcome. It is the currency that purchases change in the spiritual realm before it manifests in the physical. Faith also reshapes your language. What you speak reflects what you believe. People without faith speak fear, doubt, and despair, and their words reinforce their condition. But a person of faith speaks possibility, life, and hope. Words become seeds, and faith-filled words produce fruit in due season. When your speech aligns with faith, you stop describing life as it is and begin declaring life as it can be. That declaration shifts your mindset, strengthens your spirit, and opens the door for change to manifest. It is important to understand that faith does not always bring instant results. Sometimes change is gradual, like the rising of the sun or the growth of a seed. But whether immediate or delayed, faith guarantees movement. Faith assures you that what looks static is not truly stagnant. Beneath the surface, God is at work, aligning circumstances, touching hearts, and orchestrating outcomes. The delay is not denial, it is preparation. Faith gives you the endurance to wait without losing hope and to persist without giving up. Faith is also deeply personal. No one can believe for you, you must choose it yourself. It is not inherited by tradition or borrowed from someone else's confidence. It grows through relationship with God, through hearing His word, and through acting on His promises. The more you practice faith, the stronger it becomes. Small steps of trust lead to greater leaps of belief. Over time, you realize that faith is not just something you exercise occasionally, it becomes the lens through which you view the entire world. Change, at its core, requires risk. Faith is what empowers you to take that risk without fear. It allows you to step into the unknown with assurance that you are not stepping alone. Faith does not eliminate uncertainty, but it gives you confidence that uncertainty is in God's hands. When faith takes root, fear loses its grip, doubt loses its voice, and hopelessness loses its power. The catalyst of faith ignites transformation not only in your circumstances, but also in your heart. shaping you into a person who refuses to settle for less than what God has promised. Ultimately, faith as a catalyst for change teaches us that we are not victims of life's conditions. We are participants in a divine partnership where belief opens the door for miracles. You may not control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you respond, and responding with faith invites God to move. One word of faith can rewrite a lifetime of limitation. One act of faith can birth a future that once seemed impossible. Change begins the moment you decide to believe, not in your strength, not in chance, but in the God who can do what no one else can. Life is not meant to be carried by your strength alone. The wisdom of surrender teaches us that letting go is not weakness, but alignment with the one who knows the way. The principle of divine intervention reminds us that there are battles you cannot fight in the flesh, but with God's presence, no enemy can prevail. Living in alignment with His purpose assures you that your life is not random. You were created with intention, and every step is ordered. And faith, the great catalyst, becomes the key that unlocks transformation, turning impossibility into reality. So when you lift your voice and say, "I plead with you, Lord, please step into my life and do what only you can do," you are not whispering from despair. You are declaring from wisdom. You are inviting heaven into earth, exchanging your limits for His limitless power, and choosing to walk not by sight but by faith. And when you do, you will discover that the greatest change is not only in your circumstances, but within you. The invitation is clear: surrender fully, trust deeply, align faithfully, and believe boldly. For the God who stepped into the lives of countless generations is the same God who can step into yours today. And when He does, nothing will remain the same.